What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the AV Pack Pod, and today my special guest is Lindsay.
Hi, everybody.
So today we are talking about horror movies.
We're going to start with talking about 3 of the essential franchises, which all happen to be created by James Wan, because at least for myself, they're some of my favorite franchises in general, but I also listened to Kylan's recommendation and watched a movie from his favorite franchise, and so we both have opinions on those.
Yes, we do. So first off, we got a lot of, we got the top 3 main James Wan horror franchises, them being Insidious,
The
Conjuring, and also Saw. For those of y'all who don't know, James Wan is a huge horror creator. He's also done a lot of different other movies like Aquaman, and I'm pretty sure he's done a lot more superhero things that he's working on.
Yeah, he did one Fast and Furious movie.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, but he's mostly been focusing on horror and since his start. But
okay.
Yeah, so I'd say my favorite is Insidious. In general, out of those 3, Insidious 2 especially is my favorite out of the series, which I don't know why I specifically like that one. I think I like the villain in that one the most.
Okay, yeah.
Because we also kind of get the backstory for Parker Crane in that one. Okay, and you watched Insidious 2 recently, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So what did you think about Parker Crane?
I don't know. I feel like he was like everybody in this movie. It was something like, I don't know, it was a little off.
Yeah.
It was something off about everybody in this movie. But him specifically, I don't know. He seemed a little weird to me.
Yeah. Basically, if you don't know, the Parker Crane is actually a serial killer. The villain looks like an old woman in this scary black bride costume almost.
Oh, yeah.
And kind of gross grease makeup, like white makeup. But we actually find out it's a guy. It's a male serial killer named Parker Crane, but he dresses as a woman because of his abuse in his childhood. We see we see flashbacks to his childhood and see how his mother kind of made him dress as a girl and stuff. Yeah. And so that really messed with his head, and that contributes to his look as the villain. But
this movie was interesting because you said it's your favorite. This is out of the entire Insidious franchise?
Out of the Insidious franchise.
Okay, I don't know, because it was okay. It wasn't. I don't think it's the best.
Which would you say is the best?
The best one's probably the first one.
Yeah, I'd say that's my second favorite.
Yeah, I mean, I think my problem with this movie was the acting. It's the mom, when she was older or whatever, Josh's mom, when she was older, that actress, she seemed more believable, you know? But then when him as a kid and the younger version of his mom, I don't know, it was just bad acting, you know? Some of the line delivery was just
so
not
it kind
there.
of took you out of the
it took me out of it.
Yeah. Another thing I really liked about this series in general is that they have a different take on fighting demons and stuff versus the traditional exorcism.
Yeah.
They do astral projection almost. They go to the realm of the dead. Through her name's Ellie, right? I believe.
I think
or Elise?
So.
Elise. Yeah, but they go to the special realm of the demons and fight them from there.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, you kind of see the person's innermost fears and trauma through that.
Yeah, that's what I thought was interesting about this, is because, like you said, they went into like just different realm, but like sometimes it happened like when they were sleeping, like the kids.
Yeah, they
when
were almost
they
like
slept.
dream walking.
Yeah, basically, but they also were connected to the real world or reality or whatever. Because like it was one scene where the grandson, I think, was telling his grandma that someone's behind him or behind her, and then of course we didn't see it until after he told the story again. I'm like, okay, that's weird,
Yeah. It seems that always the grandchild or the child is always the one that sees the demon first,
Yeah.
and no one believes them.
Which I don't know if this is like a trope with supernatural movies.
Yeah, it definitely is.
But I'm like, if your kid is telling you they see something,
just like in Chucky,
right over it, you're exactly right. But like, yeah, I don't know. And again, I also had another problem with the adults, like when they had like the baby crib or toy or whatever that was moving by itself and turning on, and then it had the piano. I'm like, if you see it at first, why are you still in the house? Just get out. Like, you gotta go.
Yeah, I think that's everyone's thought when watching a horror movie. They're just like, leave the house, move.
Right.
But yeah, like in The Conjuring, they also had that kind of no one believes the kid trope, and especially in the second one. Did you watch the second one?
I did not watch the second one.
Okay, well,
I watched the first one.
Yeah, I'll give you like a little bit of a background, but basically they're like in England, I believe, but it's like this little girl, and she's been possessed, but Ed and Lorraine Warren go to help, but they're not sure to believe her or not, because basically there's also this kind of subplot about Ed and Lorraine Warren's kind of like personal struggle with like almost the fame of of their
like exorcism.
Yeah, like they gained a lot of personal fame. They were real people, by the way.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So they were dealing with a lot of hoaxes. People coming forward trying to get famous off of like fake demons that they just made up. And so they have this girl and her mom. Her mom's like desperate and is trying to have someone help them, but they're struggling to believe the mom and believe the girl. And so that adds an extra aspect of tension to the movie. But yeah, the girl is terrifying.
One thing I do like about The Conjuring, like that whole series, is they kind of do the same thing over and over throughout the movies, but I don't know, I feel like they're done in a different way. I feel like James Wan, his directing style evolves throughout all of these movies. And you can see with just I don't know, I think it's the kids he picks or whatever to be in the film. They all bring a different sort of, I don't know, some kind of like aspect or whatever to their specific character, even though they're kind of going through the same thing almost, which I just thought it was great way to see his evolution.
Yeah, I definitely say like in the Conjuring series, at least all of those movies could stand alone on their own. I mean, we have all those spin-offs like The Nun, Annabelle, Curse of La Llorona. All of those can stand alone up by themselves, but you still see the influence of James Wan in all of them. And they still, a lot of them, at least in The Conjuring, they have the same type of actors he reuses, like Patrick Wilson over and over again. He's in like a lot of his movies.
Oh yeah,
but
wasn't he in Insidious too?
He's in all the Insidious, all of The Conjuring. But yeah, and the child actors, you're right. Like that can be a really good contributing factor to the success of a horror movie if the child is bringing really good acting to the table.
Yeah, I feel like if they can make you believe that they're in danger or something is like really after them, that's how you know that they've done a good job with this movie. But the Conjuring and the Insidious, although they're in the same universe, aren't they? Like in the same realm, or is it something different?
I think so. I think they're technically in the same universe.
Okay.
But they're not really connected at all.
You know what? It makes sense because I know they have, what you just said his name, the actor.
Patrick Wilson.
Because he's in like both of them, right?
Yeah, but he plays a different character. So maybe they're...
Okay.
I don't know what the explanation behind that is.
Like, is it twin or something, or what's going on?
Yeah, but I know
But
Conjuring, like The Nun, Annabelle are all in the same universe.
yeah, that was another movie we had just picked up. Let me see.
Oh, we were gonna talk about Saw.
Saw. So for those of y'all who don't know, the original Saw was done by James Wan. He created that entire like franchise basically. And the original Saw was, I think it had a budget of like, was it
like $1 million?
only $1 million?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know why I thought it was like 15 something, like 15,000.
It was crazy low budget.
It was super low, and I like that they did it mainly in one room.
Yeah, basically.
Almost. But I don't know. It was weird because this entire franchise is not in chronological order. Like, as the more movies we get, we see that this is basically going back in time or whatever, or something like that. But these movies are intense.
Yes, definitely.
The gore is crazy.
Mm-hmm. I just watched the first one. I haven't seen any of the others, but definitely very gory. But it wasn't like unnecessary gore. It was like it played for the story. It was like necessary to the story. It wasn't just, just trauma for no reason. And I really did like the unique kind of concept for it.
Yeah.
I have seen that redone several times, but I've just now seen the original kind of inspiration. But yeah, I'd say in Saw, definitely the first one, the acting could use some work. That was my
for sure.
Yes, that was my big pet peeve with it, is that the acting, especially the doctor, what is his name?
Oh, the guy with the blonde hair.
Yeah, the blonde doctor. His acting was awful.
Oh, it was bad.
Mm-hmm.
Bad.
Yeah, like sometimes you couldn't believe he was in danger. He and he was probably the worst actor in the movie.
Oh yeah.
But like they did pretty well for that low of a budget. Considering. I think a lot of the things they added to it, like for example, I really enjoyed. They had a lot of interesting cinematography. They had a lot of dynamic shots, and also they had a specific color grading for within the room that the torture took place that made it more grim and like cruel kind of feel. I really liked that idea, and I also obviously loved the plot twist. I'm a sucker for plot twists.
Oh yeah, that's what Saw is full of plot twists. But I feel like the more you watch these movies, every time a new one comes out or whatever, you kind of understand that what the plot twist is going to be sometimes.
More formulaic.
Yeah, more predictable at most. Mm-hmm. But I will say one thing about at least this first one, the special effects, they were pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah, it used a lot of practical effects over visual effects, I'd say. And I think that's part of what contributed to making it more realistic.
Yeah, I mean, I know they use some digital effects, of course, later on, throughout the franchise. But I think for these first few movies, a lot of it was practical effects, which I thought was insane, as some of the stuff that they do in these films were done practically. But like at the beginning of this first one, where he was where you see the man on the ground with the gun next to him, I'm thinking, oh, he's done. Like they really did that well.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, you believe this guy's dead, but he is not.
Oh yeah. But yeah, Saw is definitely up there when you think about top horror franchises for sure. But speaking of, top horror franchises, Child's Play is definitely one of the more classic, horror franchises. Definitely one of my favorite genres, like a slasher. You seen the first Child's Play?
Yeah, so I watched it per your recommendation because that's not usually my type of thing. I prefer the more supernatural horror.
Yeah.
But I found it interesting and kind of wacky almost.
Yeah.
Like, it did have kind of a humor aspect to it, which I liked. But It didn't seem all that scary. Obviously, it was made in the 80s, so they didn't have as much resources as we have now to make things look more realistic.
Yeah. This movie is probably like my favorite horror movie just of all time because, like you said, it's not as scary now because, when you're older, whatever, you understand, what happens behind the scenes and stuff with it. But as a kid, watching this like for the first time, that is nightmare fuel. Like, especially you got like all the toys and things. That's like, I don't know, this just like really creepy to me. Especially like a toy that's coming to life and then no one believes you at all.
The trope once again.
But I like the way that Child's Play. They just, I don't know. I feel like they really they made the character Chucky feel real. Like he really put fear into everyone like in this film along with the audience, which I thought was great, especially because like the voice acting done by Brad Dourif. His voice acting really brought the character Chucky, all together. I feel like that's what held it together.
Yeah, I think his voice is really iconic for that role. And I really like that it kind of just switched between the doll's like electronic voice when he was trying to put on the facade and then switched to the like criminal like scary voice. And also it was kind of funny whenever Chucky would cuss at people especially when the kid would repeat it. That was hilarious. But yeah, he was like a little demon.
Oh yeah. It was. This is strange because originally, so Don Mancini he created Chucky. So like the whole voodoo aspect.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up because I like when horror movies have like bring something from another culture or like bring in a legend or something from another culture, and I think voodoo is like a really cool thing to bring in as a way to transfer the soul into the body. I thought that scene where they saw the inside of Charles Lee Ray's house was really cool because it showed like him his devotion to these voodoo spirits.
So the whole voodoo thing, that was crazy because originally Don Mancini, he still hates the whole voodoo aspect because originally like they were gonna do like a blood pact thing to where Andy was like eventually gonna get bullied, and I guess he used Chucky or whatever as like an extension of himself to go after the other people and kids.
So he would have a blood pact with the doll?
Yeah, so originally the title was going to be called Blood Buddy. But I think there was another movie or something within the same year that came out that was called Blood Buddy or something like that. So they switched it all together and put in the whole voodoo aspect. But yeah, I like the voodoo. I don't know how I feel if they would have just, did like the blood or whatever, but
Yeah. I think it brought something unique to it, and I love when they kind of introduce different legends, or like for example in his house where they have the Sudan legend of the Apeth. I think that's really cool because it's not something you see in a lot of horror movies. It's not like a trope with like ghost, zombie, witch. Like you see something different and something. And the fact that it's new and uncommon makes it more terrifying.
Yeah, especially like back in the 80s, you didn't see too much stuff like this, which I thought, was great because this was, at this time, was something super different from, of course, like your Michael and Jason's, all those kind of things. And this is definitely like a classic horror film. I feel like everyone has to see at least once. But yeah, this movie is great. So I know we have a few more movies to talk about. First one you recommended.
Yes.
It's on Netflix. It's called His House. Now, you know what? Why did you want me to watch this movie?
I just thought See, I watched this movie. I told him I watched this when I had COVID, and I was just stuck in my room with Netflix looking for a random horror movie to watch. And I found this to be a hidden gem.
Yeah.
It was really unique and had a really interesting concept that I hadn't seen in a horror movie before. And I was really glad that I picked it out. But it was also definitely very scary to me, at least.
Yeah. So I got issues with this movie. So it reminds me of The Shining a little bit. So I don't know if you've ever seen The
I have
Shining.
not.
You gotta watch that movie. But so I guess like as soon as they get up in the house, whatever. So they're like from a refugee camp or something like
Yeah,
that.
they're from South Sudan, I believe, during
Sudan.
like a war.
A
And they-
war. So we get in the house and almost immediately after they move in the house, we start to see the jump scares of different stuff like in the shadows, like in the corners and stuff, which I thought they overdid too much with the jump scares. Like I felt like within the entire sequel, they had a jump scare almost every 5 seconds, which I'm like, okay, I get it. You know, we understand what's gonna happen now, but I don't know. It was off. Like the acting was good. I will give it that. The acting was pretty good. It's just the guy, he was just acting super insane over this one house. I'm like, dog.
Well, I think part of the fact that we had all these jump scares, but we also learned that it was actually this demon or this kind of creature was almost a manifestation of their guilt with their
Yeah.
daughter's death. And she kind of represented that. And basically, the creature gave them a choice if they could sacrifice, or the dad could sacrifice himself to get the
Yeah.
daughter back. And so they also kind of had that emotional, like, tensity and
Yeah.
aspect to it as well, which ended up leading to a really gory and like traumatizing scene. Like that scene is burned into my brain,
Yeah.
where basically the demon enters into his skin through, like, he makes a cut on himself, and then the demon
Yeah.
like sticks his like little gross little fingers
Fingers, yeah.
inside and enters himself into his skin. But eventually the mom comes to his rescue.
Yeah. Which I don't know. I feel like this is more of a psychological
Mhm.
kind of movie. That's
Yeah.
probably why I'm like, okay, I don't
See,
really
I
understand.
love the psychological horror.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, it was okay. Definitely. I don't know. It was just something about. I think it was just all the jump scares, and then the one scene where he was just hammering all the windows. I'm like, what's going on? Like what's happening?
he was going crazy. Like
Yeah, he was definitely going crazy.
he ended up like destroying his house in the process.
Yeah, and then I think it was the ending, like that ending shot of them just standing there holding hands. I'm like, that's a weird way to go
I
off.
think it was just kind of trying to show that they did get the daughter back, and that they ended up being a happy family.
Yeah.
Almost.
It's like you did all this to be happy, but like at what cost?
what
You know?
cost?
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna talk about 'Malignant, which was another one of my recommendations.
Yes. So, like you just said, you recommend I watch this movie. I was gonna watch it like when it came out. I don't know, it was like a year or two ago,
I think 2021. Yeah.
2021. Again, this is another James Wan.
Mhm.
Definitely go watch this movie if you have not seen it. It's pretty insane.
I saw this like review saying that it looked like James Wan was kind of tired of doing the Aquaman Fast and Furious type of thing,
Yeah.
and he just put every idea he ever had into one movie and kind of made for this crazy, intense, really weird experience.
You know what? Speaking about the Aquaman and stuff, we see a little bit of like the action aspect in this movie from like the beginning of the movie, and then like toward the end of it, you start. It's just massacre everywhere.
Yeah.
It was kind of insane the way that they. I wouldn't say a twist, but like I don't know, like they made everything. I don't even know how to explain
They
it.
set it up for a way that you had no idea what the twist was going to be. Like, you knew something had to be behind all of these murders.
Right? Yeah.
Because this woman that was having visions almost of all of these, like, gruesome murders and somehow being framed for it, there had to be something behind that. But we had no idea what that was until it was revealed that she had a parasitic twin attached to the back of her head.
Yeah.
Almost like a tumor that was taking control of her body and her mind at certain points and would basically make her black out, and the tumor would control her body and have her kill people.
And I feel like the way that they like I don't know, like is a the transition into what was his name? Was it
Gabriel?
Gabriel.
I just looked it up.
The way they made him and her seem like two separate characters at first, I think they did a good job, because I know that in the film they had her, I guess, like frozen or whatever, and then they did like a great transition, by the way, of them, like her just seeing him go and murder all these people, which I'm like, that has to be terrifying to be just, you can't do anything.
Yeah, it was like she was transported to the place and paralyzed.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was really crazy when she looked back and saw that she technically was doing these murders.
Right.
She was just almost in a catatonic state, and her body was being taken over. And I also did kind of like the I don't know, this may be kind of a hidden theme a little bit, but how it starts out, how Gabriel is brought to life almost, or resurrected, is how her husband is like abusing her and hits her against the wall, and her skull, like, it's such a hard blow to the head, like her skull cracks, and Gabriel, who was basically encased inside of her skull, is released. Yeah. And I think a really cool part about that is the fact that, I mean, I'm not a Gabriel apologizer, but he's kind of coming out to protect her, I would say. And almost as like a big brother character, but he does really gruesome massacres, but he does it for his sister at least.
Yeah. It was like the bashing the head against the wall or whatever. I didn't know where the movie was going to go, because when he did that, it seemed like a ghost or a spirit. That's what I thought, like it was going to be like something almost like Insidious or something like that.
Yeah.
But then, of course, later on, we realized, oh, it was her, but Gabriel.
Yeah, it's almost like the common thing is to have like a demon or a ghost attached to you, but it was literally another person attached to her that was kind of taking over, which is like a really unique concept.
I like the way that I don't know how they did it. I don't know if it was like CGI or something, like when he inverted her body to make it his, like, so everything was just popped out backwards, like the arms, the legs, and like the way they showed it, I'm like, that has to be painful, because you're sharing the same body, and they share like the same brain as well. Which I thought, I'm like, I don't know how that works. Cord. You said what?
And spinal cord.
Oh yeah. See, it's like a lot of this stuff he made you, I don't know, James Wan, he makes you, I guess, think sometimes, like think about like certain situations of like, how would you react, or what would you do if something like this happened to you or you witnessed it, which I think is great, especially for a movie like this, because it is so out there. It's very different from what we're used to seeing from him. But yeah, I enjoyed it.
I think a common thing with a lot of his movies is almost having the kind of a choice to make almost, or like something you have to side with. Like, would you blame Emily for the murders, or would you just say, no, it wasn't her?
Right, it wasn't her,
Yeah. Like, would you be able to forgive her? I don't know.
Before we go ahead and wrap up this Malignant one scene that I just thought was insane was the prison scene. Like when she got trapped inside the jail.
Yes, that was crazy.
And she, first of all, I don't know what their problem was, that she just got jumped out of nowhere. I'm like, it's not gonna end well.
I'm pretty sure it was that Gabriel was like insulting them. Like,
oh,
so like she didn't see that, but I think Gabriel was like egging them on.
Yeah. Okay. It makes sense now.
Yeah, but basically she just got beat up. Like,
and there was that first scene where we seen her actually transform.
Defend her. Well, we also see her defend herself as well.
Did she defend herself? Yes. Because it was just body parts everywhere, from cops to the inmates. I'm like, yo, what did I watch? You know? But that's pretty much all we have for the James Wan movies. The pretty James Wan set, episode right here. But I know there's a lot of I want to say like classic horror fans. I know you had a few different movies that you've seen already before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say some of the one that's pretty controversial in my opinion is the remake of Pet Sematary, which I loved, and Kylan did not.
Yeah, see, like I think they did a good job at making a movie, but I just think that the original just did a lot of the things that this remake just I think they could have done better, especially with the technology and stuff that we have now. I feel like they could have did like times better with this, but the original, I think it's like the practical effects or whatever, they just nailed it.
Yeah, this is definitely more heavy on the special effects and like CGI, but I definitely think it's still terrifying and really gory. Like, if you haven't seen the scene that is burned in my brain is definitely the 18-wheeler scene.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, fast forward through that. But yeah, it's like, and it has a plot twist almost too, because in the new one at least, it seems like one of the kids is going to get run over, but then it ends up being the other one. And we see their like lifeless, contorted body on the ground. And basically what happens is that the father is so desperate that he makes the decision to kind of try to reanimate her body using this ancient curse. I
will give it that. This one was way gorier than the original. That's kind of one of the things I like about this remake was the gore. I don't know how. I think was just most of this like CGI or was just a lot of this practical effects.
It looked mostly CGI.
Mostly okay, yeah. But they definitely hit the mark on the gore because they turned it up to 10 in this remake. But yeah, it was okay, definitely.
I did like that it had kind of a culty aspect to it and like kind of a dark witchcraft. Yeah. I tend to like that kind of concept. Like they had the kids in the animal masks doing like the ritual. Yeah. I thought that was really cool.
Which I don't know. I feel like that scene, I feel like it was done pretty well. I'm not sure if that was the same as the original. I don't know if they had like the whole culty, like the kids in the mask thing, but I feel like if that was pretty good.
Yeah, it added something to it.
We got more somewhat controversial films.
Yeah.
Like
speaking of witchcraft and like culty, this is definitely a controversial opinion, but I did not like the Blair Witch Project.
I think there's like a majority of a lot of people that don't like it. But yeah, it's definitely pretty controversial. You got your people who like it, who don't like it, but I think that's more of like a genre kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like the found footage. I like the Blair Witch Project. I didn't like the second one, but this first one I think it was done pretty well.
Did you find it like scary at all?
I found it scary in the sense that before I knew that it was like a movie that they actually like had, filmed and stuff.
So you actually like thought it was found footage the first time you watched it?
Yeah, because the first time I watched it,
Oh,
I didn't see
really?
no trailers, any of that. Because you know how like when you comes on, it say this is like found footage or stuff like that. I'm thinking, oh, this is real, and like the way they advertised it, they made it seem like this is just footage they found somewhere. I'm like, okay, this is crazy.
It was actually not the first found footage movie I'd seen, so I don't think
Yeah.
I was as vulnerable to that aspect. It like if you know that it's kind of supposed to be like that, then it almost seems cheesy.
Yeah.
And like it goes really slow.
Oh,
There's barely any type of. It's just kind of like the tale of these kids that are played by bad actors in the woods, and then we get like maybe one glimpse of the actual witch. Did we even see the witch at all?
I think we get. I don't know if we see the witch at like on like camera full on. I think we get like
We just get
little
like
glimpse or something.
sounds. And
Yeah,
like,
a lot of sounds.
yeah. So we don't even. It's more just focused on the characters rather than the actual
Yeah.
like witch at all, which is really makes it kind of boring.
You know, I think this is a very like audio heavy movie. They focus on a lot of the sounds, you know, to I guess scare the people. And when it comes to the acting, I'm gonna let the acting slide only because it's supposed to be a found footage. They're not supposed to be actors. But I feel like, you know, they could have done a little bit better on
But
the believability.
they didn't even act like they were like real like
Like
kids just in a
Yeah.
like in a project or something. They
That's
just
true.
acted like Disney characters. They were
Just-
like really cheesy.
Yeah. But I like the whole I don't know, like the camera work I think was great, especially like the whole grainy, you know,
Yeah.
like video recorder kind of style. But I think that this movie really opened up a lot of doors for a lot of these other, you know, found footage films to really thrive and stuff like that.
Yeah. I feel like it at this point maybe have been overdone because I think it really needs to be done well for it to have its intended effect, and
Yeah.
otherwise it can be like cheesy and boring, and it can just be a dud.
Yeah, I feel like if they're gonna do, I don't know, maybe not like a witch movie, but like more, you know, found footage. I feel like take like a real story or whatever, and then try and find a way to turn that into, you know, into something.
So actually write a good story first before just thinking,
Yeah.
oh, this is like the found footage that'll make that movie.
Yeah. Somewhere like the Paranormal Activity. Although it's not like a true story, there's stories out there like this that, you know, it has occurred like that. So I
It's more believable.
yeah, more believable for sure.
Yeah. I really liked, probably my favorite found footage is Cloverfield, and I think they did that really well, so that it was actually made it have that kind of psychological fear factor.
But yeah, you know, found footage is definitely one of those genres that I think is underrated. But yet, you know, I understand why it's underrated because a lot of the films are questionable.
Yeah, it can be underrated only if it's done well. Like I said,
Yeah.
it needs to actually have like the story behind it, and like just be like a regular horror movie with a decent kind of concept before you try to put that aspect on it.
And that is going to wrap it up here for this horror episode of the AV Pack Pod. Lindsay, I appreciate you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
But all these movies, y'all can go and watch them on like HBO and
Amazon Prime.
Amazon
That's
Prime.
where I usually watch.
Yeah, and also on Netflix, like for Hill House. But I feel like we should just give them a list of movies to watch and not to watch.
Essential, like we said, we both like enjoyed Insidious, Conjuring, Saw, Child's Play, if that's your type of thing, if you kind of like the slasher film. And if you also into that gore aspect, Pet Sematary. And definitely watch Malignant. We both agree on that. That one's a must watch. And His House, that can be, if you just want, if you want something interesting that maybe you'll either laugh at or find very terrifying.
Yeah.
Either way. So yeah.
But yeah, don't watch Blair Witch. Just don't watch Blair
unless
Witch.
You want to wait just 2 hours.
And that's going to wrap us up here for the AV Pack Pod, and we'll catch y'all in the next one.